Due to the graphic nature of this urban legend, listener discretion is advised. This episode includes descriptions of agoraphobia and poisoning. We advise extreme caution for children under 13. You wiggle your mouse, waking your computer up. You're desperate for an update on your delivery. A coffee grinder. It's supposed to be the best on the market. Much better than the dinky hand-me-down your dad gave you. But there's no email update, so you search your inbox for the tracking number. When a new email comes in, you eye it hopefully. But it doesn't have anything to do with your coffee. It's a forward. Some chain email. You're about to delete it, but the subject catches your eye. Do not ignore. It's a matter of life and death. You click on it before you can stop yourself. Your eyes catch fragments of alarming phrases. 23 confirmed cases of people attacked by the Klingerman virus. Virus arrives in your real mailbox. CDC and USPS are investigating. Causes severe dysentery, hospitalization. But it's the email's last sentence that rings in your ears, like someone is leaning over your shoulder to whisper, "Pass this on to everyone you care about." Worry floods you momentarily. Should you forward it around? But you explain it away. You get a dozen of these chain emails a week. It's obviously not real. It would have been in the news. But what if it is real? Your cursor hovers over the forward button. Maybe it's not too late. Your neighbor's dog barks, startling you. It takes the familiar metallic clink of the slot at your front door for you to realize what's happening. The mail has arrived, dropped in a small pile on the floor of your entryway. But as you look closer, you freeze. At the very top sits a powder blue envelope emblazoned with the words, "The Klingerman Foundation." Welcome to Haunted Places, a Spotify original from Parcast. I'm Greg Polson. Today's episode is part of our Urban Legends series. Every Tuesday, we explore those chilling stories you hear secondhand, the kind that seem made up but contain a kernel of truth. Urban Legends is only on Spotify, so keep listening here to never miss an episode. But don't forget to come back each Thursday for a classic episode of Haunted Places, covering yet another ghost-filled locale. You can find episodes of Haunted Places and all other Spotify originals from Parcast for free on Spotify. Today, we examine an urban legend from the early 2000s that has been passed not by word of mouth, but through thousands of digital messages. A threatening email chain that warned its recipients to be on the lookout for a mysterious letter, claiming to contain a gift from the Klingerman Institute. But there was no gift inside, just a nasty surprise, sure to send you to an early grave. Up next, our inbox pings, and we'll open a strange new email. For many of us, spam emails are a daily annoyance. We get them from all kinds of places. Stores you gave your email to forever ago and somehow still have you on their listserv. Family members who roguely reply all about holiday plans. And your old gym that keeps wondering when you'll come back. The answer is never, Jim. Never. But in the late 90s and early 2000s, the spam we all feared was the chain email. Its objective was always the same, begging its recipients to pass it along to a certain number of people with the promise of luck, prizes, or even love. But some were more threatening than others, containing stories about the dark repercussions of not passing it on. One warned of a young girl who deleted a chain email. Shortly after, she received a call that her boyfriend had died. Another told of a woman who only forwarded the email she received to 9 recipients instead of 10. She was killed that night. The chain email survival depends on being shared. It's a virtual virus and highly contagious. Scott Campbell, a professor of communication and media at University of Michigan, spoke to CNN about the psychology behind the email forward. This is a way that people are expressing a new level of connectedness, but people have this other side of them, this feeling of control that comes out of convincing others or getting them to do something. During turbulent times, when we feel disconnected from one another, the chain email offers up a way to regain a sense of community and participation. But some people are more interested in gaining a sense of power. Pass it along, they say, or deal with the consequences. But ultimately, even when it seems bogus or silly, the chain email offers you a choice, a chance to seemingly decide your own fate. And that is tempting. Because sometimes, just sometimes, we can't ignore that itch in the back of our minds. The one that gently asks, but what if it's true? Ethan may have been slowly sipping his morning coffee, but really he was anxiously steeling himself against the sound he knew was coming. The email alert. His siblings Beth and Dave had gone in together to buy a computer for his 50th birthday last month, and he hated the thing. No, he was terrified by the thing. Messages flew at him constantly, loud beeps and boops, and he was certain it gave off radiation. He kept it under a blanket in his living room, wedged beneath a window in the furthest corner possible. He wanted to get rid of it, but Beth had pleaded with him to give it a chance, and he didn't want to disappoint her. The monstrosity had been expensive, and his siblings weren't exactly wealthy. They were trying to help him overcome his aversion to technology and join the rest of the world. So he had to wait at least another few weeks, just to prove to them he tried. Ethan took another sip. The house was quiet and dark, the shades drawn to prevent that Florida sun from heating up the place. The only light came from the stained glass flower window in his front door. Ethan didn't use AC. He didn't need yet another device whirling and chiming around him. He didn't even like to use fans. But some things you couldn't avoid. This was Florida, after all. He glanced at the analog clock, counting down the minutes until the mail came. It was Monday, coupon day. He liked to organize at the top of the week so he could plan his grocery delivery. It wasn't as quick as a ride to the store and a credit card swipe, but it was a tried-and-true system, just like his mother had done it. It was 8:50 a.m. now, 10 minutes left before the mail came. He'd been hoping for an early delivery. That happens sometimes. Ethan moved to the window to peer out at the street, hoping to see the familiar boxy white USPS van making its way toward him. But the neighborhood was still. The flat, colorful houses looked like a dusty pastel rainbow. Palm trees towered over crisp, browning yards, and tiki torches surrounded empty lawn chairs. Ethan nearly spilled his coffee at the sound of his inbox chiming. He didn't want to check it, but it could be Beth, and Beth refused to call him anymore until he learned to use the computer. She only emailed. He reluctantly plodded across the cold tile to his living room, to the blanket-covered computer. Ethan took a deep breath and pulled it off. Ethan leaned over to wiggle the mouse, trying to keep his distance. The Windows logo flashed briefly before his AOL account popped up. One unread message from Beth. He didn't like it, but he'd open it. He always opened emails from Beth. In fact, he only opened emails from Beth. She was the only one he trusted not to turn this terrifying block of technology against him. The subject line read, "Forward this for good luck." Ethan opened it. It was a poem, warning that if he didn't send it to at least 10 people, he'd have bad luck. Ethan winced. That he did not want. Every time Beth forwarded him a chain email, its taunting promise of misfortune if it wasn't passed on goaded him. He imagined the computer blowing up, a car bursting through his wall, a plane falling from the sky onto his house. Basically, the machines would attack, all of them, at once. He shuddered. It wasn't hurting anyone to send it, and as Beth always said, better to be safe than sorry, his life motto. He quickly clicked forward and typed in 11 email addresses, one extra just to be safe. Finally, he clicked send and relaxed. Ethan glanced at the clock, but it still wasn't time for the mail. Maybe he'd just call. They might have an update on timing so he could be ready. He stared at the phone, considering. The telephone scream startled Ethan. He flinched, cursing under his breath. His phone was a new model, and he hated the sound of it. Every day it seemed there was another high-pitched sound vying for his attention, when all he wanted was to sit quietly and go through his daily mail. He picked up the receiver and was pleased to hear it was his younger brother Dave's voice on the other end. But his bubble was burst when Dave told him the reason for the call. The email forward. Dave complained Ethan kept clogging his inbox with that rubbish. What was he doing all day sending bogus chainmail? Ethan apologized, insisting Beth was to blame. But Dave nastily told Ethan that his reclusiveness was out of control. He needed to get out of the house. Get out of the house. Dave said that to him a lot. It used to be said with concern, but the more Ethan retreated, the more it became an angry criticism. He even cut his own hair now. He used to walk into town, but everywhere he turned, mechanics screamed at him. Cars whizzed by. Cell phones chimed. Cameras watched. He couldn't stand it. The world was gradually becoming a mess of wires and electric currents. It was unnatural. He threw the blanket back over his computer and hustled out of the room. It wasn't good to be around it for too long. Once he was back in the kitchen, he pulled back a window shade to look out at his mailbox. Still no mail truck. He'd just have to call. He grabbed the receiver again and dialed the number by heart. The muffled ringing chimed in his ear. But it was interrupted by the dogs barking outside. Ethan perked up. It was him, the mailman. He slammed the receiver down and pulled on a terry cloth bathrobe, disguising his threadbare pajama pants and Six Flags t-shirt. Six Flags was somewhere he'd like to go, but, well, you know, roller coasters, all of them now run by machines. He hustled over to the door, but paused. His eyes moved to take in a massive thermometer by the door. It was 95 already. If it had been in the afternoon, he wouldn't have wanted to brave the walkway. He couldn't risk a heat stroke sending him to the hospital. The thought made his heart race. He cleared his throat before his worries spun out of control, reminding himself that he was moments away from his coupons. Ethan opened the door. The low hum of the muggy heat greeted him. A lizard darted across the concrete pavers that led through his yard. It was only 16 feet from his door to the chain-link fence that enclosed his overgrown lawn, but it suddenly seemed endless. He looked around quickly. None of his neighbors were out. The houses that lined his street were still quiet. There wasn't a machine in sight. Nothing to worry about, but the telephone wires that hung over his head. Ethan stared at the mailbox. Then he took a deep breath and hurried down his walkway. By the time he strode the 20 paces to the sidewalk, his forehead was dripping with sweat. He blinked away the salty sting in his eyes to fumble with the mailbox's lid. A loud motor revved, and Ethan dropped to the pavement. His heart pounded. His sweat dripped onto the concrete walkway, making a small puddle. Through the chain-link fence, he saw his neighbor Hank pushing a lawnmower around his yard. Ethan closed his eyes, trying to calm his nerves. A few swallows moistened his dry mouth. He stood and reached into the box. A few flyers, some bulky blue envelope, and his coupon book. Ethan was thrilled, but suddenly he felt a chill. He looked across the street. A man wearing a Hawaiian shirt was staring at him. Up next, Ethan opens his precious mail and finds it's not as safe as he thought. Parcasters, you know the world can be chaotic and unpredictable, but how far would you go to turn the tides of favor in your direction? In the newest Spotify original from Parcast, we're taking a closer look at bad omens, good luck charms, and age-old traditions that just might have the power to change our fates. Each episode of Superstitions presents a new drama that unpacks a different belief. Can holding your breath while passing a cemetery save your life? Will carrying a rabbit's foot bring you luck? How can you go through life always avoiding the number 13? And why should you try? They may seem mystical, unusual, completely illogical, but one thing is certain, you ignore them at your own risk. You can find and follow Superstitions free on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. To hear more Parcast shows, search Parcast Network in Spotify search bar and find a growing slate of thrilling new series to enjoy. Now back to the story. Across the street, the man wearing the Hawaiian shirt stood on the sidewalk beneath a palm tree, staring at him. Ethan trembled. He didn't trust anyone anymore, with the machines they called cell phones always sitting in their pockets, ready to be pulled out at any moment. The man reached into his side satchel. Ethan tensed, wondering what horrible contraption he was about to pull out. But it was only a simple clipboard and a pen. The man jotted something down. Ethan relaxed and offered a wave. The man nodded and waved back. Ethan hurried for the safe haven of his abode, the blissful, cool, dark cocoon that he could control. Ethan slammed the door behind him, panting heavily. The stranger had turned out to be harmless, but the lawnmower was evidence enough. His own neighborhood, his own walkway, wasn't even safe. But when he looked down at the mail in his hand, the terror of the outdoors melted away. He had mail. It was a soothing balm to his worried mind. A piece of the outside world delivered to him in safe, manageable envelopes. Ethan sat at his kitchen table to rip open the coupon book. He went through each, setting aside the ones he thought he'd use and the ones that he'd keep for later. A nice deal on cherries, an even better one on milk. The Coke coupon wasn't great. Even its 2 6-packs for $1 deal seemed pricey. Once he was done with his clippings, he picked up the powder blue envelope. The lettering across the front was large and bold, almost as if it was screaming. It said, "Restricted access, cash prize, Klingerman Foundation." Ethan turned it over. It looked normal. It could even have a coupon for a cash prize, one he'd got to turn in. He could feel a squishy object within, pressing against its paper restraints. He was dying to know what was inside, but his gut was unsettled. He didn't know any Klingerman Foundation. But it was just a letter after all. The mail hadn't betrayed him before. In fact, it was the only thing he could count on. Ethan tore open the blue envelope to find a blank piece of paper folded inside. But that wasn't all. There was also a sponge, sealed in plastic. Some prize. Probably part of a promotion or something. Ethan glanced over at his sink, eyeing his own ratty sponge sitting on its porcelain edge. He could use a new one. Ethan unwrapped the new sponge, feeling its porous surface squish in his fingers. He placed it on his sink and tossed the grimy sponge in the trash. The phone startled him again. Ethan steeled himself and answered it. It was Dave, calling to apologize about the way he'd snapped at him earlier. Ethan assured him it was fine. But when he hung up, he realized his fingers were numb. Ethan looked at his hands. They looked normal, but they felt like they had pins and needles. His breath caught in his throat, and then stayed there. Ethan coughed, alarmed that he wasn't able to breathe. He started to heave, his chest constricted with growing panic. He looked at his hands again, and then up at the phone. It was the last thing he'd touched. Landlines weren't supposed to be dangerous, but they were still machines, with wires and signals. Ethan impulsively ripped the phone from the wall and slammed it onto the tile. It shattered on impact. But Ethan's hands continued to tingle. He ran to the sink to turn on the faucet and grabbed a stainless steel dish pad and scrubbed. His breath grew more laborious. He moved vigorously up and down his arms with the scrubber, but it wasn't working. The tingling only got worse. His eyes landed on the sponge that had come in the mail, sitting innocently atop the sink. He looked down at his hands, the hands that had touched the sponge. He tried to calm his racing heart, to piece together what was happening. He'd used that phone hundreds of times, but that letter, that weird company name he'd never heard of, Klingerman. It was the only unusual thing that had happened all day. Ethan poured more soap on his hands and scoured them. It wasn't long before they began to bleed. The tingling faded, replaced by the sting of the soap seeping into the fresh cuts. As he scrubbed, his eyes bore into the sponge, his panic growing. He imagined his flesh melting, the poison it had unleashed seeping into his lungs or settling into his blood. His chest tightened further. Oh God. Oh God. Ethan quickly reached for a plastic grocery bag beneath the sink. He used it to wrap the sponge and drop it into the garbage. The lid slammed shut, and for a moment, all was still. The tightness in his chest abated. He felt himself relax. And then, the room spun. He lunged forward to empty his stomach into the sink. But when he stood up, he realized it wasn't over. His bowels lurched violently. That horrible feeling you get when you need to be within 1 second of the bathroom, or you're doomed. He staggered to the hallway, groping at the tropical wallpaper to support himself. And then, his legs gave out. He dropped to the ground with a moan and curled into a ball. He could smell that rancid odor that told him what he already knew. He hadn't made it in time. His stomach clenched with nausea, reminding him of its ability to turn on him again. He wondered how long he would lie there before someone found him. Maybe it was just a panic attack. But he'd had one of those before, and it hadn't felt like this. His eyes moved to his door's stained glass window. A shadow moved behind it. There was someone there. He called out for help, but there was no movement. Then, through the window, Ethan could see the figure lift up a clipboard. It was the man from earlier, the guy in the Hawaiian shirt who had been watching him. Now, Ethan knew why. That man knew Ethan would open the letter, and he knew Ethan was inside in soiled pajamas, being slowly poisoned. Ethan reached for the phone, but its scattered plastic shards reminded him that he was unable to call. It was hopeless. He would die. Alone. The chime of an incoming email reverberated through Ethan's head. He slowly turned to look at his computer. The screen glowed beneath the blanket. Once taunting, it now called to him like a beacon of hope. The computer was all he had left. He crawled to his desk chair, using the last of his energy to pull off the blanket and haul himself up. The screen blurred as he opened a new email. His heavy fingers lethargically typed out a message to Dave and Beth. Send help, please. This is a virus in the original sense of the word, one that affects your body, not your hard drive. A virus that arrives in your real mailbox, not your email inbox. Sweat splashed onto the keyboard. His stomach heaved. But still, his hands slowly moved his mouse forward to click send. People have reported receiving and passing on the Klingerman virus email in various iterations from the early 2000s to 2001. While the email itself was real, there are no confirmed cases of anyone actually receiving one of these deadly sponges, though there have been some victims of panic caused by its message. In 2000, a woman in Florida had seen the email and was alarmed when she found a blue envelope in her mailbox a few days later. She called the police, prompting a hazardous materials team and bomb squad to surround her house. But the proceedings were stopped when a neighbor showed them an identical letter she had received, full of magazine ads. That same year, a Maine resident called authorities after getting a sanding sponge in the mail. The FBI closed off his street, and hazmat-suited responders sprayed him down with a fire hose. The sponge turned out to have a simple explanation. It was from the Handyman Club of America. But it's not only the email's recipients that have been harmed by its fear-mongering message. In a version of the message that was circulated in 2001, the Yale New Haven Hospital in Connecticut was listed in the email signature. The message prompted the hospital's phone lines to be overrun with terrified citizens for weeks. The CDC and USPS were similarly bombarded. Both institutions had to put messages on their websites proclaiming the virus was a hoax. A version of the Klingerman email was revived in late 2001 to ride on the coattails of the very real anthrax scare. In the weeks after September 11th, letters containing an infectious disease called anthrax were sent to media companies and congressional offices in Florida, New Jersey, Connecticut, Washington, D.C., and New York. The attack resulted in the death of 5 people and the infection of 17. The deadly letters raised public terror in a country already reeling from the tragedies of September 11th, and revealed yet another way American citizens could come under attack through the once trusted postal system. Thankfully, the anthrax cases of 2001 were isolated incidents. Postal Service employees now screen for suspicious packages, and in 2016, the original anthrax letters went on display at the Smithsonian. Now they're nothing but a piece of postal history. Yet, hoax or not, there's a terrifying irony to the Klingerman virus emails. It's in the way new cutting-edge technology warns its users against old, reliable methods of communication. Because after all, some people fear the internet for its dark depths. But when the internet warns us against something we've always considered safe, what then? Thanks again for tuning into Haunted Places. We'll be back on Thursday with a new episode. And don't forget to come back on Tuesday for our Urban Legends series, available only on Spotify. You can find more episodes of Haunted Places and all other Spotify originals from Parcast for free on Spotify. Until next time, don't believe some of the things you hear. Believe all of them. Haunted Places is a Spotify original from Parcast. Executive producers include Max and Ron Cutler. Sound design by Kenny Hobbs. With production assistance by Ron Shapiro, Carly Madden, and Isabella Way. This episode of Haunted Places was written by Kate Murdoch, with writing assistance by Alex Garland. I'm Greg Polson.